The smoke curled from the grill, bitter and sharp, mixing with the sound of his laughter. He looked at me over his beer, face red, eyes shining with cruelty he thought was humor. "You're old enough to pay rent or get out." The table erupted. My uncles slapped their knees. My cousins smirked. My mother sipped her wine, silent as ever. I didn't laugh. I never laughed at his jokes, because I was always the punchline. I just stared at him, calm, expressionless. And in that silence, I made my decision. It wasn't always this way. When I was young, I thought his gruffness was love. His harsh words, lessons. His silence, strength. I wanted his approval more than I wanted air. I worked, I studied, I took on shifts after school, and every paycheck I slid across the counter at home. For groceries, I'd say. For the bills. He never thanked me. He never even looked at me. Instead, he drank, he laughed, he told the world that he built this house brick by brick, never mentioning that the electric stayed on because of me, that the mortgage stayed afloat because of me. Year after year, I carried the weight he claimed as his own. Until the barbecue. Until that line. Pay rent or get out. He thought it was a joke, but I don't joke. The next morning, before the sun rose, I packed. Quiet, efficient. Everything I needed fit into 2 suitcases. At breakfast, I left the keys to the house on the counter. I didn't slam the door, I didn't make a scene. By noon, I was unlocking the front door of my new home. Mine. Paid for in full with the savings he never knew I had. While he mocked, I had been planning. While he drank, I had been building. By evening, I was standing in their living room again, this time not as their dependent child, but as their creditor. He was in his recliner, beer balanced on his belly. The TV hummed. She was at the table, flipping through mail. Bills. Stacked high, unopened, waiting for me. They didn't look up until I spoke. "I moved out today." He chuckled. "What, finally grew a backbone?" I set the folder on the table. Their utility accounts. Their mortgage balance. Every bill I had been paying for the past 6 years, in my name. "I'll be stopping all payments," I said. My voice was steady, cold. "Starting now." Their faces drained of color. You see, it wasn't just rent, it wasn't just groceries. I had put every account under my name to protect them when their credit collapsed. Water, gas, power, even the house, refinanced using my paycheck as collateral. Without me, they had nothing but overdue balances and a debt they couldn't climb out of. For years, they had mocked me while I shielded them. Now, with one decision, I stripped it all away. The silence that followed was heavy. My father's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. My mother's hands trembled as she shuffled the papers, realizing what they meant. "You can't just," she started. "I can," and I did. I leaned down, close enough for him to smell the freedom on my breath. "You wanted me to pay rent or get out. I paid. I got out. And now you can figure out how to keep the lights on without me." That night, I slept in my own house. The air smelled different, clean, untouched by resentment. My phone buzzed until dawn with missed calls. I ignored them all. In the weeks that followed, the cracks in their fortress widened. The utilities shut off. Late notices piled at their door. Neighbors began to whisper. The same man who mocked me as weak was now begging for extensions, red-faced at the bank, humiliated at the corner store when his card was declined. I didn't need to see it to know. Word traveled fast. Do you know what revenge tastes like? It's not fire. It's not rage. It's silence. It's the power of walking away, leaving them to choke on the weight they once forced you to carry. Months later, I drove past the old house. The grass was knee-high. curtains drawn, a foreclosure notice taped to the door. He sat on the porch, thinner now, a cigarette burning low between his fingers. He looked smaller, weaker, he looked breakable. For the first time in my life, I didn't want his approval. I didn't want his love. I wanted nothing. And nothing is the sharpest blade of all. At that barbecue, he thought he was cutting me down. Instead, he freed me. He thought his laughter was the last word. But the silence I left behind, that was the final blow. Because when I walked out, I didn't just leave the house. I left them powerless. And they'll never recover.